At midnight, while the village slept, Sola stood alone in the forest, digging. For 3 hours she dug a grave 6 feet long, 3 feet deep. Tomorrow, she would invite her best friend Muna to celebrate her engagement to the prince.
Thank you. It
She
smells
would
wonderful.
poison Muna's
Enjoy every
wine,
drop. I will.
and she would bury her alive in this exact spot. Why?
Because I want everything. The prince, the palace, I mean everything. And I will kill anyone who tried to stand on my way.
Because Sola wanted Muna's life, the prince, the palace, everything, and she was willing to kill for it. But wait, let me tell you the story of how it all began. In the village of Akuzo, everyone knew 2 names that always came together: Muna and Sola, best friends since childhood. Inseparable. Where you saw one, you saw the other. Those 2 are like sisters, the village women would say, smiling as they watched the girls walk to the market together, laughing and whispering secrets. But some secrets are darker than others. Muna was 22, beautiful in a quiet way. Soft eyes, gentle smile, kind heart. She sold vegetables in the market with her mother and dreamed of simple happiness, a good husband, healthy children, a peaceful life. Sola was 23, beautiful in a sharp way, bold eyes, quick smile, ambitious heart. She worked as a seamstress and dreamed of bigger things: wealth, status, a life that made people whisper her name with envy. They had been friends
What
for
a
17
beautiful day
years,
for a walk. It
shared
really is.
everything,
I'm so happy to be here with you.
celebrated
Me
together,
too.
cried together, or so Muna thought. What Muna didn't know was that Sola had been hiding poison behind her smile for the past 5 years. It started when they were both 17. Prince Tobena, heir to the Akuzo chiefdom, had returned from the city where he studied, tall, handsome, educated. Every unmarried girl in the village suddenly found reasons to walk past the palace. Sola fell in love with him the moment she saw him. She would style her hair differently every day, hoping he'd notice. She would walk past the palace gates, slowly, practicing her smile. She dreamed of being chosen as his wife, wearing royal beads, living in the palace. But Prince Tobena never looked at her twice. Instead, one afternoon at the market, he stopped at Muna's vegetable stall. "How much for the tomatoes?" he asked. Muna, startled, nearly dropped the basket. 50 naira, my prince." He smiled. "You have kind eyes." She blushed. "Thank you, my prince." He bought tomatoes he didn't need and returned the next day, and the next, and the next. Within 3 months, the entire village knew Prince Tobena was courting Muna, the vegetable seller's daughter. Sola heard the news while sewing a customer's dress. Her needle slipped and stabbed her finger. Blood dripped onto the white fabric. She smiled at the customer. "Sorry, let me fix that." But inside, something dark was born. Why her? Why Muna? She's just a vegetable seller. I'm a skilled seamstress. I'm bolder, smarter, better. He should have chosen M.E., but Sola said nothing. She smiled when Muna told her the news, her excitement bubbling over. "Sola, the prince wants to marry me. Can you believe it?" "I'm so happy for you, my sister." Sola hugged her, teeth grinding behind her smile. 5 years passed. Muna and Prince Tobena's courtship was slow and respectful. He was patient. She was shy. Their love grew genuine and deep. Finally, the announcement came. The wedding would take place in 1 month. The village erupted in celebration. Muna, the humble vegetable seller, would become a princess. Muna was overwhelmed with joy. "Sola, you'll be my chief bridesmaid, won't you? I can't do this without my best friend." Sola's smile was perfect. "Of course, Muna. I'll be right beside you, always." That night, alone in her room, Sola stared at her reflection in the cracked mirror. 5 years of watching them together. 5 years of pretending to be happy. 5 years of swallowing jealousy, like bitter medicine. No more, she whispered to her reflection. An idea formed. Dark, terrible, but effective. If I can't have him, she won't either. She began planning. First, she volunteered to help with all the wedding preparations. Let me handle everything, Muna. You just rest and be beautiful. Muna was grateful. You're the best friend anyone could ask for. Sola smiled. I know. Second, she visited the old herbalist on the outskirts of the village, the one people whispered about. I need something to make someone sleep deeply, very deeply, Sola said, placing money on the table. The herbalist's eyes narrowed. How deeply? Deep enough that they won't wake up for many hours, maybe forever. The herbalist prepared a powder. 3 pinches in liquid. They'll sleep within minutes. Their heart will slow. They'll appear dead within an hour. Sola took the powder and smiled. Third, she waited for the right moment. 1 week before the wedding, Sola approached Muna at the market. My sister, you've been so busy with preparations. Let's take one evening just for us, like old times. Tomorrow, let's go to our special place by the river in the forest. Just you and me. Our last time as just friends, before you become a princess. Muna's eyes filled with happy tears. Oh, Sola, yes, I'd love that. Tomorrow evening, then. I'll bring wine and snacks. I'll bring the memories. Muna laughed. Sola laughed too. That night, Sola went into the forest with a shovel. She found a spot hidden by thick bushes far from the path, and she began to dig. She dug for 3 hours under the moonlight, sweat dripping, hands blistering. But she didn't stop. She dug a hole 6 feet long, 3 feet wide, 3 feet deep, deep enough. When she finished, she covered it with large leaves and branches, invisible unless you knew it was there. She stepped back and admired her work. Tomorrow, Muna. Tomorrow you'll lie here forever, and I'll take your place. The next evening, Muna walked into the forest, carrying a basket of fruits and wearing her brightest smile. She had no idea she was walking to her own grave. She had no idea that the woman she called best friend had spent the previous night digging a hole to bury her alive. She had no idea she had less than 2 hours to live, or so Sola thought. The evening sun filtered through the forest trees as Muna arrived at their special place, a clearing by the river where she and Sola had played as children. Sola was already there, sitting on a woven mat with a gourd of palm wine and 2 clay cups. Muna, you came? Sola's smile was warm, her voice sweet. Muna sat down, breathless with happiness. Of course, I wouldn't miss this for anything. They talked and laughed. Muna shared her excitement about the wedding, about becoming Prince Tabena's wife, about the life ahead of her. Sola listened, nodding, smiling, pouring wine. Let's make a toast, Sola said, filling both cups. To you, Muna, to your new life, to everything you deserve. They clinked cups and drank. The wine was sweet. Muna drank deeply. This is good wine. Where did you... Muna stopped, her vision blurred. Sola, I feel strange. The cup fell from her hand. Sola, what's happening? I can't see. Sola's face changed. The warm smile disappeared. Cold eyes remained. What's happening, my dear friend, is that you're finally going to sleep. Muna tried to stand, but collapsed. What did you do? Sola knelt beside her. I poisoned your wine. In a few minutes your heart will slow down so much you'll seem dead, and then you will be. Why? Muna's tears fell. We're friends. Friends? Sola laughed bitterly. I've hated you for 5 years, Muna. You took the man I loved. You took the life I wanted. You took everything. I didn't No, you loved him. Of course you didn't know, because I'm a good actress. I smiled while my heart was burning. I congratulated you while I was dying inside. I helped plan your wedding while I was planning your death. Muna's eyes closed, her breathing slowed. Sola stood up and dragged Muna's limp body through the forest. Muna was barely conscious aware, but unable to move, unable to speak. She felt herself being pulled through dirt and leaves. Then she heard digging sounds. She forced her eyes open slightly and saw Sola uncovering a hole in the ground. No. No. Please, God, no. You want to know the best part? Sola said, breathing heavily as she dragged Muna to the edge of the grave. Tomorrow, I'm going to tell everyone you ran away, that you abandoned the prince, that you were never worthy of him. Ever. She rolled Muna into the hole. Muna landed with a painful thud at the bottom. She tried to scream, but no sound came out. Sola looked down at her. And then I'll be there to comfort him. Within a year, he'll marry me. I'll be the princess. I'll have everything that should have been mine. Sola picked up the shovel and began covering Muna with dirt. The first shovel of earth hit Muna's chest, then her face. Then everything went dark. Muna tried to move her arms, but they were paralyzed from the poison. She felt dirt filling the space around her, covering her eyes, entering her nose. She couldn't breathe, couldn't scream, couldn't move. I'm going to die. She's burying me alive, and I can't even fight back. Sola worked quickly, efficiently. Within 20 minutes, the grave was filled and covered with leaves and branches. Goodbye, best friend, Sola whispered. Enjoy the worms. She walked away without looking back. Underground, Muna floated in and out of consciousness. The poison was wearing off slowly. She could feel her fingers beginning to twitch, but she was buried under 3 feet of dirt. She tried to move her hand. Pain shot through her body, but she pushed upward. Her fingers touched more dirt, more darkness. She tried to scream. Dirt filled her mouth. Please, someone, anyone, help me. Her lungs were running out of air. Her vision, though there was nothing to see, was fading to grey. This is how I die. Alone, in darkness, betrayed by my best friend. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. She couldn't tell. Her consciousness faded completely. Meanwhile, Sola returned to the village. As the sun set, she tore her dress slightly, scratched her arms with thorns, made herself look distressed. She ran to the market square, crying loudly, "Help! Somebody help! Muna is gone!" People gathered around her. "What happened?" "We went to the forest to celebrate," she said. "She said she couldn't marry the prince. She said she loved someone else. She ran away before I could stop her. She left this." Sola pulled out a note written in handwriting she'd been practicing for weeks to match Muna's. "I'm sorry, I can't marry Prince Tobena. I love another man. I've left the village. Don't look for me. Forgive me. Muna." The crowd gasped. She abandoned the prince? 1 week before the wedding? What kind of woman does this? Within an hour, Prince Tobena heard the news. He read the note. His hands shook. No, Muna wouldn't. She wouldn't do this. But the evidence was there. The note, Sola's testimony. Muna was gone. Tobena collapsed in his chambers, the note clutched in his fist, and wept like a child. Outside his door, Sola wiped fake tears from her eyes and smiled. Phase 1 complete. 3 miles outside the village, a group of travelling merchants rode along the forest path. They'd been travelling for 2 days and were exhausted. "Let's camp here for the night," the leader, a man named Ekene, suggested. The others agreed and began unpacking. Ekene walked into the forest to relieve himself. As he finished, he heard something, a sound faint, distant, like crying. "Did you hear that?" he called to the others. "Hear what?" That sound, like someone crying. You're tired. It's just forest animals. But Ekene heard it again, fainter now, weaker, a voice, calling for help. There's someone out there, Ekene shouted. Help me search. Ekene, we need to rest. Someone is dying. Help me. Reluctantly, 3 other merchants joined him. They followed the sound deeper into the forest. The crying stopped. Silence. See? Nothing. Let's go back. Then Ekene saw it. Disturbed earth. Leaves that looked recently placed. And a hand. A human hand. Fingers barely visible above the dirt, twitching weakly. Oh God! Someone's buried here! Dig. Dig now. They dropped to their knees and dug with their bare hands. Dirt flew. They dug frantically. Finally, they uncovered a face. A young woman. Blue lips, eyes closed, not breathing. Is she dead? Ekene pulled her out completely and laid her on the ground. He'd learned rescue techniques from healers during his travels. He pressed on her chest. Once, twice, 3 times. He breathed into her mouth. Nothing. Again. Suddenly, Muna gasped. She coughed violently, vomiting dirt and water. Her eyes flew open, wild with terror. She tried to scream, but only a rasping sound came out. You're safe! You're safe now! Ekene held her shoulders. Who did this to you? Muna's lips moved. One word came out, barely a whisper. She buried me. Then she passed out. The merchants stared at each other in horror. Someone tried to murder her, one whispered. We need to get her to a healer, now. They wrapped her in blankets and placed her gently on a horse. The nearest village is 3 days away. She won't make it. Then we go to the royal physicians. The neighbouring kingdom is 2 days east. We ride through the night. And so they rode, carrying the woman who was supposed to die in that grave. Carrying a woman whose destiny was far greater than her best friend's jealousy. Carrying a future queen. 2 days later, the merchants arrived at the gates of Azubuike Kingdom, exhausted and desperate. We need the royal physicians. We have a woman who was buried alive. She's dying. The guards, seeing the urgency, let them through immediately. The royal physicians worked on Muna for 3 days. She was in a coma. Her body was shutting down from the poison and trauma. Will she survive? Ekene asked. The head physician shook his head slowly. I don't know. Her will to live will determine that. Word of the mysterious woman who was buried alive reached King Adewale, the ruler of Azubuike Kingdom. He was a widower of 55, a kind and wise king who had lost his wife and only child to illness years ago. He had ruled alone ever since, with no heir. Curious and moved by compassion, he visited the healing chambers. He sat by Muna's bedside and looked at her face, bruised, scratched, but peaceful in unconsciousness. Who would do such evil? He whispered. He returned every day for 2 weeks. On the 15th day, Muna's eyes opened. She woke with a scream, clawing at the air. The dirt! Get it off me! I can't breathe. King Adewale gently took her hands. You're safe, child. You're not buried. You're in the palace. You're safe. Muna's wild eyes focused on his kind face. Where? Where am I? Azubuike Kingdom. My kingdom. Merchants found you buried in the forest and brought you here. You've been unconscious for 2 weeks. Muna's memories flooded back. The wine, Sola's face, the grave, the darkness. She began to cry. Deep, broken sobs. My best friend. She buried me. She wanted me dead. King Adewale listened as Muna told him everything. About Prince Tobena, about Sola's betrayal, about waking up underground. When she finished, the king had tears in his eyes. Such evil exists in this world. But you survived for a reason, my child. I need to go back, Muna said desperately. I need to tell them what she did. She's probably married him by now. With what proof? The king interrupted gently. Your word against hers? She's told everyone you ran away. If you return now, they'll think you're lying to save face. Or worse, she might finish what she started. She tried to kill you once. Do you think she won't try again? Muna's face crumpled. Then what do I do? She wins? No. You live, you heal, you become stronger, and when the time is right, truth reveals itself. But first, you must survive. Will you stay here? I'll protect you. Muna had nowhere else to go. She nodded. Months passed. Muna recovered physically, but the nightmares never stopped. Every night she woke up screaming, clawing at invisible dirt. The palace staff grew to love her. She was kind to everyone, from the highest advisor to the lowest servant. She helped in the kitchen. She taught children in the village to read. She resolved disputes with wisdom beyond her years. King Adewale watched her quietly. 1 year after her rescue, he summoned her to his throne room. Muna, I have no children, no heir. I'm getting older. I need someone to carry on my legacy when I'm gone. Muna was confused. Your Majesty, I don't understand. I want to adopt you as my daughter, train you to rule. You have the heart of a queen, Muna. You survived death itself. You've shown wisdom, compassion, and strength. Will you accept? Muna couldn't breathe. But why me? Because you were buried and refused to stay dead. That's the spirit of a ruler. So what do you say? Will you become Princess Muna of Azubuike? Through tears, Muna whispered, yes. The adoption ceremony was grand. The entire kingdom celebrated their new princess. Muna threw herself into learning. Governance, diplomacy, law, leadership. She was a natural. 5 years later, King Adewale's health began to fail. It's time, he told Muna. I'm abdicating. You will be crowned queen. But I'm not ready. You've been ready since the day I met you. And so, at age 29, Muna was crowned Queen of Azubuike Kingdom. The woman who was supposed to die in a forest grave wore a crown made of gold. She ruled with wisdom and justice. Her people loved her. Neighbouring kingdoms respected her. But she never forgot the woman who buried her. And she knew somehow, someday, their paths would cross again. That day came sooner than expected. 6 months into her reign, her chief advisor entered the throne room. Your Majesty, we've received a request from Akuzo village. They're hosting a festival and request the honour of your presence as a neighbouring royal. It's diplomatic protocol. Muna's heart stopped. Akuzo, her home village, where Sola lived, where Prince Tobena ruled. When? She asked, her voice steady. 2 weeks from today. Muna stared out the window, her reflection in the glass showing a queen where once there was a frightened girl. Prepare, my royal entourage, she said quietly. We're going to Akuzo. The advisor bowed and left. Alone, Muna whispered to her reflection. Ready or not, Sola, I'm coming home. In Akuzo village, Sola stood in front of her mirror, adjusting her royal beads. 7 years had passed since that night in the forest. 7 years since she buried Muna alive. 7 years of living the life she'd stolen. She was now Princess Sola, wife of Prince Tobena. They had 2 children, a boy of 5 and a girl of 3. To everyone, she had the perfect life. But perfection built on murder is just a beautiful prison. Tobena had married her 3 years after Muna's disappearance. Not because he loved Sola, but because his father insisted he needed a wife. Sola had been patient. She'd comforted him through his grief. She'd been there, always smiling, always supportive. Eventually, he'd agreed to marry her, but he never loved her. Not the way he'd loved Muna. On their wedding night, he'd whispered Muna's name in his sleep. Even now, 7 years later, Sola would catch him staring at Muna's old photograph, the one he kept hidden in his study. "Why do you keep that?" she'd asked once. "Because I loved her, and I don't understand why she left me." Those words stabbed Sola's heart every time. "I'm right here. I'm your wife. Why can't you love me?" But she knew the answer. You can steal a man, but you cannot steal his heart. The guilt ate at her too. At first, she'd felt victorious. She'd won. She had the prince, the palace, the life. But the nightmares started within weeks. Dreams of Muna clawing out of the grave, dirt falling from her mouth, eyes black and accusing. Sola would wake up screaming. "Are you all right?" Tabena would ask, annoyed at being woken again. Just a bad dream. But it was never just a dream. Every few months, Sola would ride to the forest, to the burial site. Just to make sure, she'd check that the grave was still undisturbed. The first few times, it was exactly as she'd left it. But 3 years ago, she'd arrived to find the grave empty. No bones, no clothes, nothing, just an empty hole. She'd screamed so loudly that birds fled from the trees. Where is she? Animals must have scattered the bones. Yes, that's it, animals. She'd convinced herself of that, but doubt crept in during sleepless nights. What if she's alive? What if someone found her? Impossible. I watched her stop breathing. She was dead. Sola pushed the thoughts away and focused on her children, her duties, her stolen life, until the announcement came. A royal messenger arrived at the palace 2 weeks ago. "Queen Muna of Azubuike Kingdom has accepted your invitation. She will visit Akuzo for the harvest festival." Sola was pouring wine when she heard the name. The jug slipped from her hands and shattered on the floor. "Princess Sola, are you all right?" A servant rushed over. "I'm fine. Just clumsy." But she wasn't fine. "Queen Muna. It's a common name. It can't be her. She's dead. She's been dead for 7 years. But what if it wasn't common? What if no? Impossible." That night, Sola couldn't sleep. She rode to the forest in the darkness, to the old burial site. She stared at the empty grave and whispered into the night. "You're dead. You have to be dead. I killed you." The wind rustled through the trees. No answer, but Sola felt a chill run down her spine. The next morning, Prince Tobena announced at breakfast, "The Queen arrives in 3 days. We must prepare a proper welcome. This is a great honour." "What does she look like?" Sola asked, trying to sound casual. "I don't know. I've never met her. She became queen 5 years ago. Young, they say, wise and just." Young. Sola's hands started shaking. "How young?" "I don't know." Does it matter? It mattered more than anything. For the next 3 days, Sola was a nervous wreck. She snapped at servants. She couldn't eat. She couldn't sleep. "What's wrong with you?" Tobena finally asked. "Nothing. I'm nervous about meeting a queen." "You've met royalty before." "Not like this." On the morning of the Queen's arrival, the entire village gathered in the palace courtyard. Royal musicians stood ready. Children held flowers. Everyone wore their finest clothes. Sola stood beside Tobena on the raised platform, wearing her most expensive wrapper and coral beads. But her heart was hammering so hard she thought everyone could hear it. Royal drums sounded in the distance. The Queen's convoy was approaching. Sola's vision blurred at the edges. "It's not her. It can't be her. She's dead." The golden carriage came into view, pulled by 6 white horses. Guards walked alongside. Attendants carried the royal umbrella. The carriage stopped in the centre of the courtyard. The head guard opened the door. A woman stepped out. She was too far away for Sola to see her face clearly. The woman wore elaborate royal attire, a stunning wrapper of purple and gold, a crown that caught the sunlight, coral beads that declared her royalty. She moved with grace and authority. She walked toward the platform slowly, ceremonially, as was proper for royal protocol. With each step, she came closer, closer. Sola's breathing became shallow. The woman was 20 feet away now, 15 feet, 10 feet. Then Queen Muna looked up, and their eyes met. Sola saw the face she'd buried 7 years ago, the face that had haunted her nightmares, the face she'd covered with dirt and left for dead, alive, crowned, standing right in front of her. Muna's eyes locked onto Sola's, and in them Sola saw everything: recognition, pain, power, and something that looked almost like pity. Time seemed to stop. Sola's world tilted. Her knees gave out. The last thing she heard before darkness claimed her was her own voice screaming, "No, you're dead. I killed you." Then she collapsed, and the entire village heard her confession. Chaos erupted in the courtyard. Sola had fainted the moment she saw Queen Muna's face, but not before screaming those damning words. "No, you're dead. I killed you." Guards rushed to catch her before she hit the ground. Prince Tabena stared at his wife in shock. What? What did she just say? The crowd murmured in confusion. Did she say killed? Who did she kill? What is happening? Queen Muna stood perfectly still, watching Sola's unconscious form with an expression of calm authority. She raised her hand, and the crowd fell silent. "Bring water," she commanded. "Wake her up." A servant hurried forward with a calabash of water and splashed it on Sola's face. Sola's eyes fluttered open. For a moment, she seemed confused. Then she saw Muna standing above her, crowned and very much alive, and the horror returned. She tried to scramble backward, but guards held her arms. "No, no, you're supposed to be dead. I buried you. I saw you die." The crowd gasped. Prince Tabena stepped forward, his face pale. "Sola, what are you talking about? Who did you bury?" Sola's wild eyes darted between Tabena and Muna. Reality crashed down on her. She'd just confessed. In front of everyone, Queen Muna spoke, her voice calm but carrying across the entire courtyard. "Perhaps I should explain. 7 years ago, I lived in this village. My name was Muna. I was engaged to Prince Tabena." The crowd erupted in shocked whispers. "Muna? The girl who ran away?" "But the Queen's name is Muna too." "Wait, is she saying?" Tabena's face went white as understanding dawned. "No, you can't be. Muna died. She left." "I didn't leave," Muna said, her voice strong. "1 week before our wedding, my best friend," she pointed at Sola, "invited me to celebrate in the forest. She drugged my wine. When I fell unconscious, she dragged me to a grave she had already dug, and she buried me alive." The crowd's gasps turned to screams of horror. "She covered me with dirt while I was still breathing. She returned here and told everyone I had run away. She forged a letter in my handwriting. And then Muna's voice hardened. She took my place. She comforted the prince. She seduced him. And she married the man who was supposed to be mine." "No." Tabena stumbled backward. "No, Sola, tell me this isn't true." But Sola was sobbing hysterically on the ground. I'm sorry. I was jealous. I loved you. I didn't know what else to do." "You buried her alive." Tabena's roar echoed across the courtyard. "You let me believe she abandoned me. I mourned her for years." He turned to Muna, and his legs gave out. He fell to his knees. "Muna, oh God, Muna, I'm so sorry. I should have looked for you. I should have known something was wrong. How did you?" Muna's expression softened slightly as she looked at the man she'd once loved. Travelling merchants heard my cries from underground. They dug me up barely alive. They brought me to King Adewale of Azubuike, who adopted me and trained me to rule. 6 months ago, I was crowned queen." She turned her gaze back to Sola, who was still on the ground, shaking. "For 7 years, I've carried this pain. The nightmares, the trauma. Every night I wake up screaming, clawing at air, feeling dirt in my lungs. You didn't just try to kill my body, Sola. You killed my peace, my trust, my innocence. I'm sorry," Sola wailed. "I'm so sorry. Please, Muna, we were best friends. Remember the good times, please." "We were never friends," Muna said coldly. "Friends don't bury friends alive. Friends don't steal lives." She turned to her royal guards. "Arrest her. She is charged with attempted murder." As guards moved towards Sola, she screamed and clutched at Tobena's legs. "Please, please, I'm the mother of your children. Think of them. Don't let her do this." Tobena looked down at her with disgust and kicked her hands away. "You should have thought of them before you committed murder. Guards, take her." Sola was dragged away, screaming and begging. The crowd watched in stunned silence. 3 days later, the trial took place in the village square. Every person in Akuzo attended. This was the most shocking crime in the village's history. Queen Muna presided as the visiting royal authority, with the village elders as judges. Sola stood in the centre, bound and surrounded by guards. The evidence was presented. The merchants who rescued Muna testified. "We found her buried in the forest, barely breathing. Someone had tried to murder her." The physicians testified. "Her injuries were consistent with being buried alive. She had dirt in her lungs, scratches from trying to claw her way out." Queen Muna herself testified, recounting every detail of that night, the drugged wine, waking up underground, the suffocating darkness, and most damning of all, Sola's own confession, witnessed by hundreds. "I killed you." The verdict was unanimous, guilty of attempted murder. The punishment, according to ancient law, was death or permanent exile. The crowd shouted for death. She buried someone alive. She deserves the same. Kill her. Justice for Queen Muna. Sola fell to her knees, sobbing. "Please, my children, I have 2 babies, please." All eyes turned to Queen Muna. She sat on the judgment seat, silent, her face unreadable. Inside, she battled with herself. Part of her, the part that still woke up screaming, wanted Sola to suffer as she had suffered. But another part, the part that King Adewale had nurtured, knew that mercy was the mark of a true queen. Finally, she spoke. "Sola, you stole 7 years of my life. You drugged me, buried me alive, and left me for dead. You stole my future, my love, my peace." Sola wept harder. "The law says you should die. The people demand it, and part of me wants to watch you suffer." She paused. "But then I would become you, and I refuse to let your evil change who I am." The crowd murmured. "So here is my judgment. You will live, but you are exiled from this land forever. You will leave at dawn tomorrow. You may take nothing but the clothes you wear." Sola looked up, a flicker of hope in her eyes. "Your children will remain with their father. You do not deserve them." "No, please, not my babies, please." "You should have thought about them before you buried your best friend alive." Queen Muna stood. "Your title is stripped. You are no longer a princess. You are no one. And every day you live in exile, you will remember the woman you tried to kill became a queen. The queen you tried to murder gave you mercy you didn't deserve." She looked directly into Sola's eyes. "Live with that." The next morning, as the sun rose, Sola was escorted to the village boundary. She wore A simple wrapper. No shoes, no food, no possessions. Her children cried for her, but Tobena held them back. "Mama! Mama!" her daughter screamed. Sola tried to run to them, but guards blocked her. "Please, let me say goodbye." Queen Muna, watching from the palace window, shook her head. "Keep moving," the guards ordered. Sola walked down the road alone, looking back every few steps. The last thing she saw was her children crying, Queen Muna standing tall in the window, and the life she'd stolen disappearing behind her. She walked until the village was out of sight. Then she collapsed on the road and wept. 6 months later, Queen Muna stood in her palace in Azubuike, reading reports from her advisors. Life had returned to normal. The trauma was healing, slowly. She still had nightmares, but they were less frequent now. A servant entered. "Your Majesty, Prince Tobena of Akuzo requests an audience." Muna's heart skipped. She hadn't seen him since the trial. "Send him in." Tobena entered and immediately fell to his knees. "Muna, I came to apologize for everything, for not fighting harder to find you, for believing her lies, for—" "Stand up, Tobena." He stood, tears in his eyes. "Can you ever forgive me?" Muna looked at the man she'd once loved with all her heart. She felt nothing. No anger, no love, just peace. "I forgive you, Tobena. You were deceived too. Is there any chance for us?" She shook her head gently. "The girl who loved you died in that grave. I'm someone new now." His face crumpled. "I lost you twice." "Yes, you did." He wiped his eyes. "The children ask about their mother sometimes. Tell them the truth when they're old enough to understand. That jealousy destroys everything it touches." Tobena nodded and turned to leave. At the door, he looked back. "You would have been an amazing princess." Muna smiled sadly. "I'm an even better queen." 1 year later, Queen Muna married a king from a neighbouring kingdom. A kind man who loved her for who she was, scars and all. The merchants who saved her life were honoured as heroes and given land. The village of Akuzo erected a monument to Queen Muna, who rose from the grave to wear a crown. And somewhere, far from civilization, Sola wandered from village to village. Some said she'd gone mad, talking to herself, apologizing to ghosts. Others said she helped other women, warning them about jealousy. But no one knew for sure. All they knew was the legend. The woman who buried her best friend alive, and the best friend who returned as queen. The lesson of this beautiful tale: jealousy may bury you in darkness, but it cannot keep you there if your light is strong enough. Betrayal from a friend hurts more than betrayal from an enemy, but survival is the best revenge. Success is the loudest testimony, and becoming everything your enemy tried to stop you from being, that is the ultimate victory. Muna didn't just survive. She rose, she ruled, she became a queen. And Sola learned too late. You cannot bury someone whose destiny is greater than your jealousy. Thank you so much for watching.